3 that were convicted of murder, compared to 100,000 men.
Oh, yeah. You're so right. Okay, my friend. Well, you have a great weekend. Thank you for coming on the show.
Great. Thanks for having me.
You take care.
Eons ago, when eagles were born, the Godhead let us reign free. We were on the run and then continue on, making choices in a cosmic spree. To exalt the self or enrich the whole, a thought process that endures today. A conundrum under a naked sun of what to think or when to pray.
You may know us as the Watchers, and we're watching over you. You may find the game is ancient. You might think the game is new. We come from different realms, and we are not all the same. You may know us as the Watchers, but we have our own end game.
You can advertise your business on Night Dreams Talk Radio, and you will be heard worldwide. Why not contact us at nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com. You're listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio After Dark with our host, Gary Anderson.
And that is me. Hey, James, I don't think I can eat ribs for a while now.
I know it. That reminded me of that scene from Green Fried Tomatoes, where the woman, she did away with her abusive husband, and to get away with it, her and her friends, they did the same thing. They had big ribs and barbecue, and then the police that was harassing her from another state, they fed it to him.
Yeah. Could you imagine going over and having some, ribs and saying, wow, I don't know what your secret recipe is, but boy, this is the best ribs I ever had. It just reminds me of like, was it Hell Hotel? Where they were making hams, but they weren't hams, from pork, from pigs.
I know. I remember, I seen that movie at the drive-in back in the early 80s, and it was freaky. Old Roy Calhoun, him and his sister, I believe it was, they had them out in the garden buried up to their necks, and you hear these noises, and these bags are moving, but we don't know what's underneath it. And he pulls that bag up, I'm about croaked.
Well, harvest time was interesting when he got that tractor out, got that chain, and did those flashing lights and was telling them that they're going up in space and they're going to, whatever it was, and the psychedelic lighting and all that stuff. And they were kind of like with the lights spinning and their heads were going with the lights. You remember that? And then he would pluck them out one at a time by the neck. That was the end of that one.
Yeah, it was like pulling up big carrots. It was just bizarre. And I think the police was related to him, too, because I think they were in on it.
Yeah, no, they weren't into it. His brother was a police officer, and he was shocked because people were missing all around there all the time. The one girl that agreed to marry this guy, if I remember, that she was on a motorcycle with a guy that, they put a chain out, and the guy hit it, and, now there's another ham, or a couple of them. I don't know. Now, if anybody wants to call in, I'm going to give a call-in number only tonight. If Pam wants to call in, or if Barbara wants to call in, or whoever wants to call in, it's 1-253-203-6695. That's 1-253-203-6695. You can, call in and say hi if you want. If not, we'll just keep talking. I don't know. I was always thinking about aliens taking us. And, for a barbecue, then I guess there's some people out there that have the same idea, but they're not aliens.
Right. And, it gives a new term to the meaning fall off the rib, tender fall off the bone ribs. I just think about that, and I'm thinking, well, what kind of meat did that come from? Is that a cow, or is it a pig, or do I need to ask any more questions? It's scary because I have seen some movies, same ones that you've seen, obviously, and it makes you scratch your head.
Well, it makes me not even want to think about, ribs. But this one lady that David was talking about, could you imagine okay, when she decided to finally off her husband, kills him with a iron, and then cuts him up and then cooks him. And, like, here's the hands, here's the ribs. Finger looking good, ribs. I don't know. I just, the thought of how anybody could be so deranged to do that. I mean, they would have to have some real serious mental issues. I guess, too, I kind of, like, from what he described her situation, she was castrated at 8 years old, I believe.
Oh,
well, coming from Egypt or wherever the country she came from, you could imagine being castrated. What it would do, either on a male or a female, emotionally. And then growing up from 8 years up, she would actually deep down resent men. Big time.
Yep. Oh, yeah. And it took place in a time frame where they didn't have reconstructive surgeries, I don't think, like they do today, and all this other things that goes on. But that, for somebody to, do what they did there, what she did, and live with somebody, you have to be like a total, have no empathy or any feelings for anybody at all. And it's like that. That's a scary kind of person. But yet they probably give off the facade like they were caring and stuff. Maybe to lull somebody in or to get you to drop your guard till that final day whenever she whacks them with the iron. But, the whole process of, cutting up the meat and stuff, that's just, I don't even know where to begin with that.
How do you cut up a body? I honestly couldn't cut. I get grossed out when I watch my wife take a chicken and cut it in pieces, to cook it. If she buys a whole chicken, I'm not into that type of thing, let alone, get rid of the guts, for example, gutting a human body. The mess it would make, how much blood's in a human body? So whatever she did, it had to make a hell of a mess.
Yeah, and I definitely wouldn't want to eat any hot dogs or bologna from their meat market or smokehouse for sure. No, thank you.
Not those sausages, I'll tell you that.
I'm sure that's terrible, but I that's not a one of that's been going on off and on throughout history through different, not a lot, but it does happen. And boy, well, jeez, did he say that one was still in prison or was that one earlier?
Yeah, that one, because that happened, not that far back, so she's still in prison.
Okay, because boy, that reminded me a lot from that movie, Green Fried Tomatoes, and they fed it to that. She fed it to that cop that was harassing her, and he said, just like you said, that was the best ribs he'd ever ate. And they had to keep their straight face while he was eating, and they was afraid he was going to get caught while he's eating the ribs. For the love of God.
Yeah, I talked to somebody years ago, and they said human flesh tastes really good. I didn't elaborate it with them. But that's what they said, that human flesh tastes good.
Yeah, I'm going to have to take somebody's word on that one.
I'm not taking anybody's word for it. Just the thought of it. I want to run to the bathroom and do the gag reflex.
Well, I'm not going to try it, is what I'm trying to say. I'll just take their word for it. I'm not going to try it. No, thank you. No. As a matter of fact, even some, listen, we went down the pork road before, so we know what goes on there. And that's just pork, and I love pork, but I still very concerned. Make sure I cook it on high heat. I want to make sure my pork's pork and not something else.
Well, too, they say that eating human flesh, there's all kinds of diseases you can get. So I don't know. I just, the whole thought of it, I want to just move on. But who was that young guy, or not young guy, but the guy would bring in young people into his house?
Dahmer.
Yeah, and he had, when the police finally went into the guy's house, they found, containers full of humans everywhere.
Yeah, and let me tell you a story. I don't know if a lot of people realize this about Dahmer, but they lived in western Ohio. And his first killing, he had hacked up a person, had him in black trash bags in the back of his car in the back seat. And he got pulled over. He was going into Indiana, but it was still in Ohio. And the trooper or sheriff, whoever pulled him over, asked him what was in those bags. And he just said garbage. But they never looked. If they would have looked that day, they would have been like 20, 30 some other murders. So that was his first. However many he killed, he would have never went on to kill any others if they were just looked in them trash bags that first time he got pulled over with them bags. But they didn't look in them. They just took his word for it, and the rest is history.
Well, they didn't expect. Who would expect you have body parts in bags? And wasn't he also eating these people?
Yeah, matter of fact, he was luring in, I think it was mostly young homosexual men or younger boys, and one of them escaped from his apartment there in Wisconsin, and he ran out in the street naked, escaped. And then he talked to cops, and it was just a domestic, and they returned the kid that escaped back to him. And, you know, that all went south. That kid never came back out again.
Yeah, he was. How could somebody? I don't know. Do you remember how many he actually killed and ate?
I think it was around 23 or 20 something that they know of. But I mean, who really knows? You know, I know that when they went in there, like you said, the refrigerator, the stove, there was pots and cans and jars. It was all over the place.
I don't know. I don't understand how somebody could get that ill to sit there and lure people in, kill them, cook them, and eat them. I just don't understand that. I mean, that's going into cannibalism like I wouldn't believe. But I tell you, there was that pig farmer up here in British Columbia, too, that was killing people and eating them, and what he didn't eat, he fed to the pigs.
You are absolutely right. But yeah, Dahmer, I think, is listed as killing 17 people, but I know there's probably more. But yeah, that's right. There was a big documentary about that. You know, that guy got away with that for a long time. He would go and prey on prostitutes and, you know, runaways and homeless people, and he would bring them to his farm to work. Well, a lot of them people had no family and nobody looked for him. You know, after they worked there for a while, he'd never pay them. And they was all doing drugs and stuff. They would just end up missing because he would kill them and you know, making meat out of them, I think.
Well, I guess what they said that a lot he was feeding to the pigs. Now, the pigs will even eat the bones. So, yeah. The old moonshiners out here in the Appalachians were near where I'm at, even out in the West Virginia. They you didn't want to get caught out there messing with your old stills back in the 20s and 30s because they would feed you to the hogs, and there's nothing left of you. Yeah, well, it's nowadays, I guess I know there was somebody here that they actually pulled DNA and found in the, you know, in the mud, feces and all that human DNA, and I think it was the guy in British Columbia. It could have been. See, nowadays, you can't get away with what you could have years ago with DNA and everything else that's going on. But, that guy in British Columbia, he got away with that for a good while. I mean, it was bizarre. Matter of fact, I think he got caught because one of the women got away. And you know, another thing, I think there was a couple people that got away, but the police kind of didn't believe him because this guy was kind of respected. And, you know, the people that was telling them, they looked down on them because maybe they were prostitutes or drug addicts or runaways, and they wouldn't take their words seriously. And this guy, that worked to his advantage because he went on for years to do this. Yeah, that's the scary part. I know that they dug up a whole lot of the farm, and they did find little pieces here and there of human remains. But I tell you, you know, if you're tossed out in the pig pen with a whole bunch of pigs, there isn't going to be anything left of it. Now, you imagine when those pigs go to slaughter. Yeah, that ham you bought at the local grocery store. Ooh. Oh, Gary, that brings to mind that old slogan, you are what you eat. Yeah. So if the hogs are eating people, oh boy. So you're kind of a cannibal by proxy. Yeah, boy, just think about it. That ham was so sweet. Yeah, and he did he used people to make meat too. So you imagine all the people that was routinely for years buying meat from him. You know, they must have really felt terrible. That or they were so obsessed with the great tasting meat, I don't know. I just think about all the murders that have gone by. Yeah, like I mentioned, my grandmother and grandfather, when they moved from the island and to the mainland up here, you know, in the Seattle area, and they they were going to buy a house, but they wanted to, you know, live and save up a little bit of money to make a down payment. So they rented a house for a year. And my grandmother would always come up, this is honest, she would come over our house every Friday night and we'd have ice cream. And then we watched TV together. Sometimes if they got really bored, they would show up on a Saturday